Hey everyone, I'm Jesse from the Janjo Zone. First off, I want to apologize if this different look I got going on. I am still in the works of working something out for the current setup, but I wanted to get a video out as soon as I can because I want to talk about Duel Masters. Yes, I'm not making just a dumb meme video on April Fools. This is a brand new video for Duel Masters, not Duel Monsters, so I thought it was a perfect time to talk about something a little bit different, but still in the realm of card games, in the relative realm of Yu-Gi-Oh! So let's talk about the top 10 Duel Masters cards. Let's just jump right into it.
Wait, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, because that helps me upload more videos and know that you like content like this.
And by the way, if you haven't checked out my Patreon, consider checking out to support the Janjo Zone further, to request a video, or a deck discussion, or to get your names at the end of this video. Also consider checking out my merch for some sick, spicy shirts and other cool designs.
Want to support Janjo? Get your name in videos or request content for the channel? Then check out my Patreon for exclusive perks, content, and stretch goals.
Alright, so the first card, number 10 that we got is Elf X. It is a nature card. Nature cards in Duel Masters are typically heavy around the mana zone, and Elf X is the best representation of that. There's also Essence Elf, which works with spell cards, but Elf X effect reads that your creatures cost one less to summon, one less mana. They can't cost less than one. Makes sense. You can't just have a free mana-less summon, though that'd be kind of interesting. But with Elf X, I really like this card. I never see it on many lists, but I've always really liked it. Obviously, I'm not someone that plays meta Duel Masters. I'm not involved in the meta game or competitive play whatsoever, but I have been playing it since, well, the game first came out in North America back in 2004. And Elf X was always just kind of broken with me because each turn you can only use you can only add one mana to your mana zone, with the exception to additional card effects. But with Elf X, it costs one less a summon for each monster, which is one less turn you gotta worry about. And as the game progresses, that's more monsters you can summon, more powerful monsters you can summon, and it's really great in my personal opinion. Alright, so the next card we're talking about is Emerald. Emerald is a water monster, 2 mana costs, I guess that's the term, and with 1,000 attack. Not great stats, but hey, it's easy to summon with a great effect. Its effect reads that when you put this creature into the battle zone, you may draw a card from your hand, you may add a card from your hand to your shield face down, and if you do, choose one of your shields and put that to your hand. You can't use the shield trigger ability of that card. So that last part is rather unfortunate. You do have to return a shield to your hand, and you can't use the shield trigger ability in that instance. However, its first effect is just really great because you can add a card from your hand to your shields, meaning that if you have a shield trigger, whether it's one you don't mind using later or one that you have to use later because you don't have enough mana, you can add it to your shield, so you're guaranteed at least one shield trigger, especially one that you want to be in there. Because if you bring back a card that maybe you don't really want to use at that time, maybe you want to save that card for a little bit later, and you have a shield that you think, hey, if I put this down now, I know that this will help me out at a certain moment. That's great. It really lets you set up your shields, and that's very important to gain that advantage, to kind of swing the momentum in your favor and to set up additional plays for the future. And that's where Emerald really shines. And Emerald is just, when I first read the card, I was like, what good is that? But when you think about it, like, holy crap, it can actually set up a lot, and that's what makes it so fantastic. Alright, so the next card is another water monster. This one's stats is, it costs 5 to summon, it's 2,000 attack, but its effect is, again, the important part here. Is that when you put this creature into the battle zone, you choose one of your opponent's creatures in the battle zone and put it on the top of his deck. I guess if you're playing against a girl, this doesn't work. This effect is really good, because most effects in Duel Masters revolve around just destruction. In the sense of monster removal. Destroy this monster, rip a card out of your opponent's hand, yada yada yada, destroy a card in the mana zone. Coral is that it returns to the top of the deck. So one, you get rid of opponent's monster, so that's a monster they have to use resources to resummon the next turn, but also it's the card that they're drawing, so if it's not a good monster on their end, that's what they're winding up with. You know what card they're going to draw, they know what card they're going to draw, and it's just not a good day for them, because you can really have heavy control with this. This is Phoenix Wing Windblast without the costs, and that's pretty fantastic, because again, there's not many cards that do this. It does so much for really control decks, and it's great. I mean, what else is there to say other than it, you know, what I've already reiterated. All right, so number 7 in not quite so high quality picture here is a fire civilization monster, and that is Basilisk Dragon. This card is absolutely busted. When I first saw it, its art is incredible. It's this long dragon with these double-bladed lightsabers. It has 4 of them. What? It has good stats too. It costs 8 to summon, and it has 8,000 attack. And it has a slew of effects. It has 4 effects. One, it's a speed attacker, so you can attack it the first turn you summon it. It can attack untapped creatures, so you can attack any creature on the field. And it's a double breaker, so it can break 2 shields, not 1. And at the end of the turn, it returns to your hand, so it has that spirit monster mechanic, which means that your opponent can't attack it the next turn, so you can just resummon it and keep attacking. You can attack 2 shields, you can attack monsters, all this first turn, and you get the safety of bringing it back. So that's pretty crazy. You don't have to worry about your opponent using cards on their turn, like perhaps activating a non-shield trigger variant of like a Terrapit. So Basilisk Dragon, there's a lot of really strong dragons in the game of Duel Masters, and I feel Basilisk Dragon is definitely in that upper echelon, because he can do so much. He's such a annoying, problematic card that does so much for you without any real drawbacks. I suppose you do have to waste the resources each turn to summon him, but if he's doing enough work, you don't have to worry about that cost per turn, because he's enough for that turn. So Basilisk Dragon, I love it. The moment I saw the card, and it's definitely incredible. All right, moving on to number 6. We have Lost Soul, a dark spell. Dark attributes or dark civilizations in Duel Masters are typically really good. They usually have powerful effects. With a lot of the times they have drawbacks, but not with Lost Soul. Lost Soul, it costs 7 to activate, and while yes, there are weaker versions of this that are good in their own right, like Cranium Clamp, Lost Soul is really good because when you pay 7, your opponent discards all cards from his hand. Again, if you're facing a girl, it does not work, I guess. Just getting rid of all your opponent's cards in their hand is incredible, because resource management is kind of finicky in Duel Masters, where you're not gaining a lot of cards all the time, so you really want to make use of the cards you have. And with Lost Soul, if you just discard all cards from their hand, if it's a lot of cards, they're not getting those back. If it's a little bit of cards, that's just more of a disadvantage that they're at. Even though it costs more than Cranium Clamp, I do think it's a better version because it just gets rid of everything, no prejudice, and it's crazy because you have all these cards in your hand, they have all these cards in their hand, and they dump them out. Because graveyard play isn't really a thing. Sure, there is recursion in the game, but it's not as abundant or as fast-paced as, let's say, like a game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Could possibly be. So Lost Soul is just, whew, all cards, all powerful. All right, so moving on in the top 5, we have number 5 is Deadly Fighter Braid Claw. This card isn't particularly powerful. It costs 1 mana to summon and has 1,000 attack, and has to attack each turn if able, and you don't have to really worry about that too much because this card is used for very heavy aggro decks, and fire is all about the aggro plays. And Deadly Fighter Braid Claw, its main thing is because of its stats is why it's so good. It's 1 mana to summon and 1,000 attack. Sure, it doesn't have a ton of attack. The fact that it costs 1 mana and it's not like some sort of blocker or something, or have some sort of real downside to it. It's the kind of card that you have in a deck because you want to summon something first turn, and that is very powerful because you have something already set up to start the aggressive plays. It forces your opponent to really figure out something quickly before you start swarming the field with these guys, and overpower your opponent. There's not really too many other cards like this. I mean, there's speed attackers, but they cost more mana to summon. There's blockers, but they can't attack players. And, you know, that's usually kind of about it with Deadly Fighter Breaklaw, is that you got him on the field right away, and he's good to do his thing, and that's why he's so good. Moving on to number 4, I kind of mentioned this very briefly earlier, but it's another dark spell, and it's our first shield trigger of the top 10. This card is Terrapit. Terrapit is a shield trigger, so when your opponent attacks your shield, you can activate it right away. The effect is that you just destroy one of your opponent's creatures. It's that simple. You can decide which one to destroy. You can have it in your shield, so you can activate it automatically, and it's great because, again, it's any creature regardless of what it is, what kind of creature, attack, effects. It don't matter. It destroys any one specific creature, and that is crazy powerful to have in a game. It's just that generic card, because typically in card games, generic cards are really good because they can do so much. You can use them in so many ways. With Terrapit, it is not an exception to this rule, to this mentality, this mindset. If it wasn't for it costing being kind of high, but that makes sense though. It's a shield trigger. So you get that trade-off of costing higher to activate normally, but you do want it in your shields. And you could use this with Emerald to put it in your shields to automatically know that you're going to destroy one of your opponent's monsters, which is great protection. So Terrapit, I like it. All right, we got the top 3 Duel Masters cards. Again, this is my personal opinion. So if you play Duel Masters, let me know what awesome cards that I missed. Obviously in the comments. We got Bomedia Steel Dragon. This card is pretty good, and you may not notice it from the get-go. He has 7 mana to summon, 7,000 attack, double breaker. When you break a shield, it goes to the graveyard instead. Okay, it's not a broken effect, but consider the following. It's a double breaker card, and it has decent stats. You know, it's 7,000, so it's not one end of the spectrum or another. It's even in that regard. So it's a double breaker, so it can break 2 shields. And typically, the idea with shields is that similar Pokemons, that when your opponent starts getting some advantage over you, starts making some progression in the game state, that the other player will get some advantage to sort of bounce back and keeps the game kind of going back and forth in that way. But with Bomedia Steel Dragon is that they go to the graveyard instead. So not only does it break 2 shields, those are 2 cards that your opponent does not get. Those are 2 cards that, if one's a shield trigger, if both of them are shield triggers, they don't activate because they go to your hand first. So it denies your opponent of so much advantage, and it gives you so much advantage because not only are you making progression in the game state, but your opponent is pushed back even more, which, you know, when you compare it to a card like Lost Soul, sure, it gets rid of your opponent's hand, but you're still in that same area of game. Bomedia Steel Dragon is just pure advantage, and that's why he's so good, and that's why he's such hundreds of dollars expensive card. It's kind of nuts. It's kind of nutty. A little bit nutty. A little bit almond, if you will. All right, so number 2, we got Holy Awe. This is like the equivalent of Terrapit. It's a 6. It's a shield trigger, but its effect is different. It taps all your opponent's creatures in the battle zone. So a lot of players in Duel Masters, unless you're playing a super heavy aggro deck, they're going to set up all their monsters so they can swing for one big OTK attack, hopefully. But with shield triggers, that could become an issue, and Holy Awe is definitely a great case of this because it taps all your opponent's monsters, essentially ends their battle phase. Is it called battle phase in Duel Masters? And that's great. You can also use it during your turn if you have the card in your hand. So you can go on a super offensive thing. You can tap all their blockers. You can just attack all of their monsters. So you choose. And it's so versatile in that regard. It can do so much. It can swing the tempo way more than a Terrapit could. And it's absolutely busted. It's a nutty card. It's probably the strongest light cards, I would say. There are a lot of good light civilization cards, but Holy Awe is definitely the best out of them. And in terms of Duel Masters cards, it's definitely one of the top 10 for sure. All right, for number 1, we got Energy Stream, another water card. I'm happy to have included all the civilizations in this. There's plenty of great cards that I could have added, like Soul Swap, Mana Nexus, Aqua Hulkus, a lot of great cards, but Energy Stream is just so simple. Cost 3, it's a spell, and you draw 2 cards. It's the Pot of Greed of Duel Masters, and there's other similar cards like Brain Serum, but Energy Stream just lets you draw 2 cards, and that's it. It doesn't cost a ton to use. You get free 2 cards, and that's just more things you can do. I don't know what else to say. It's just really good because you can just draw. That's all you do. You draw 2 cards. You get 2 cards you can use for whenever. It doesn't cost 5 mana to use. It's only 3. So there's a lot of great things that you can just do alongside Energy Stream and have more mana for. Unlike something like Holy Awe or Terrapit or Lost Soul that costs 5, 6, 7 mana. This one only uses 3 for 2. Draw power is usually key in card games. They say in Yu-Gi-Oh! In formats where Pot of Greed is legal that if you're not playing Pot of Greed, it's not a real deck. And I would have to say the same with Energy Stream. I mean, assuming that you play cards that, can actually let you use it, because you do need water civ cards to actually activate it. But in that regard, if you're playing a water deck or any card that uses water cards, if you don't have Energy Stream, it's not a real deck. And to have a card that's that impactful, that it's a card that you would want in every deck, really. Alongside with a card like Holy Awe. Holy Awe is really close, but Energy Stream is just, it's easier to use, it's free advantage, you can use it whenever you want, and for that, it's number 1. It's the best Duel Masters card. So let me know what you think about this list. If there's any cards I missed, again, let me know, and check out my social medias in the description below and other ways to support the Janjo Zone further, whether it is sharing this video or going on my Patreon or my merch or just what have you. So until I see you all next time, have a wonderful day.